Well, welcome everybody. It's nice to see those of you that are here in City Hall tonight. Thanks for joining us. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order. We start with an invocation, which we observe by a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Corliss.
Here.
Halliburton.
Here.
Rouse.
Here.
Nash.
Here.
Stead.
Yes. Here.
Yes.
All present.
And now we've got minutes for approval.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the minutes for the work session and evening meetings of February 4th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, clerk?
Willett.
Yes.
Corliss.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Rouse.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Stead.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Now we've got two items under special business. First is the reappointment of Abigail Morgan. Thanks so much for being willing to serve on the Public Works Commission again. I am proposing that Abigail be reappointed for a 4-year term. Oh, but first, but I'd love to have you say something. I'm so glad you're here, but first I'll ask for unanimous consent.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent for the reappointment of Abigail Morgan to the Public Works Commission for a 4-year term ending March 1st, 2029.
Without objection. Well, thank you. You are official. Thanks again so much for all the service you provided already and being willing to continue on the Public Works Commission.
Well, thanks, Mayor and Council. It's been a pleasure to serve for the past 4 years, and so I'm very looking forward to being able to continue to serve.
Oh, I heard a phone in the background. Sorry.
No worries at all. But just want to express gratitude for being able to have continued civic engagement for citizens to be able to get more involved and learn more about the city and be able to have a hand in the process. So I've really enjoyed serving and look forward to continued service. So thank you.
Thank you and congratulations.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment. I serve on the Public Works Commission with Abigail, and it's just such a pleasure to serve with her. She's very thoughtful and kind and brings so much attention to the matters and details and questions. And thank you for agreeing to continue to serve.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Corliss.
Mm.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Have a great night. And next up, we've got Eric Bemoria with us for the interim budget changes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We have 4 interim budget changes for your consideration this evening. The first item is a recognition of $98,000 of federal funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the recently awarded Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program. These funds will be used for planning costs related to preventing and ending youth homelessness in the area served by Boise City Ada County Continuum of Care. The planning grant will primarily cover the costs of engaging youth with lived experience of homelessness in the planning and decision-making process as required by HUD. If the planning funds are accepted, the city must match funding with 25% cash or in-kind contributions. Existing staff costs may be eligible to meet the in-kind contribution requirement. If these costs are determined to be ineligible, there is available unallocated funding in the Housing Projects and Special Activities Fund that could be used to meet this requirement. The second item is an increase of $1 million for the South 8th Street Mobility Improvements Project. Of this amount, the Downtown Library Deferred Maintenance Activity will contribute $205,000. This additional funding is primarily necessary to address soft costs, including professional fees, permits and special inspections, CMGC fees, and bond expenses tied to the construction process. In addition to the soft costs, hard construction costs for the project are also forecasted to be $200,000 higher than originally budgeted. The majority of this increase would be supported by a reduction to the facility reserve in the capital fund. However, staff intends to work with CCDC to amend the existing T4 agreement and pursue a higher degree of reimbursement. The third item is a $100,000 revenue neutral appropriation increase to recognize the second round of funding from Bloomberg Philanthropies Youth Climate Action Grant. $85,000 of this grant funding will support the continuation of a microgrant program that engages youth in designing, implementing, and managing urgent climate solutions. The remaining $15,000 will be used to hire a temporary employee to administer and track the microgrants reporting requirements. The final item is a $100,000 increase to replace the geothermal service line at the Industrial Administration Building on Main Street. This building is one of the original geothermal connections and has reached the end of its useful life. The cost of the project would be supported by geothermal fund balance. Work on this project is expected to begin mid-April, and be completed within a few weeks thereafter. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions that the council might have.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the interim budget changes as proposed by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we don't have any staff here, but in case there are any folks that are watching online, there's some really great projects here. There's some complicated ones that involve federal grants, partnerships with Bloomberg, so private funding, partnerships with some of our local partners like CCDC, and it takes a lot of work to make these happen. So if staff is watching to see if these things go through, thank you for the hard work in putting these together.
Before there's vote, I'll just say I'm really excited to see that we were able to have a second round of funding for young people in our community on climate action grants. As you all remember, we received the first grant from Bloomberg Philanthropies for this work about a year or so ago. And some of us were there in the fall to hear from the students and other young leaders the status of their projects and what's happening. I should say winter, not fall. And it was really cool to be in a room surrounded by so many young Boiseans that are working together on different projects throughout the community. So I was very excited and really honored when we learned that we had another opportunity to do this again, and look forward to more information to come for the next round of grants and what we're looking for in the community. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Willet,
Yes.
Corliss,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Stead.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Thanks, Eric. Have a good night.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, clerk?
Willet,
Yes.
Corliss,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Stead.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Madam Mayor,
Hi, yes.
I just wanted to mention Resolution 8225, which is an agreement with the Russell Corporation for construction on the Whitney Pool project, which is an exciting step in the right direction, I think, for that project. So exciting to see that take form a little bit more.
Okay, we are now in reading of ordinances. Looks like we've got a couple on first reading.
Madam Mayor, I should ask consent that all ordinances on first reading be read by number and title only and filed for the second reading calendar.
Without objection.
ORD 8-25, an ordinance, CAR 24-5, for property located at 3919 West Overland Road, Boise, Idaho 83705, amending zoning classifications of the city of Boise City to change the classification of real property, particularly described in section 1 of this ordinance and adjacent rights of way from R-1Z, residential traditional, to MX-2, mixed use general, setting forth a reasoned statement in support of such zone change and providing an effective date. ORD 9-25, an ordinance, CAR 24-11, for property located at 204 South Eagleson Road, Boise, Idaho 83705, amending zoning classifications of the city of Boise City to change the classification of real property, particularly described in section 1 of this ordinance and adjacent rights of way, from R-1Z, residential traditional, to R-3, residential urban, setting forth a reasoned statement in support of the zone change and providing an effective date.
And second reading.
Madam Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that all ordinances on the second reading be read by number and title only and filed for the third reading calendar.
Without objection.
ORD -6 -25, an ordinance amending Boise City Code Title 9, Chapter 5, Electrical Code, addressing code compliance, inspector certification, penalties for non-compliance, open garage ceiling requirements, and providing an effective date. ORD -7 -25, an ordinance amending Boise City Code Title 5, Chapter 12, Fire Prevention Code, to add new sections to address code compliance, extensions, fluorine-free suppression foam, wall separations, requirements for lithium batteries, and to renumber and providing an effective date.
Thank you. We have nothing on third reading, so we'll move into our public hearing for the evening. We have one item on the agenda. Let's see. It's CAR 24-14. It's a rezone. So do we have the applicant here? Great. The applicant's online. All right. So we'll start with city staff presenting, and then we'll have the applicant online present. Is anybody here to testify on this item? Betty? Great. Okay, we've got one. Are you here as a neighborhood association or an individual? You can split the difference. Oh, gotcha. Perfect. All right. Is anybody else online for this? Not right now. I'll check in after David and the applicant present to see if, Betty, we need you as neighborhood association or as yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of the council, the applicant is requesting a rezone of approximately 2.5 acres located at 10100 West Overland Road from R2, AIO, and DA zone, which is a residential compact in the airport influence overlay area with a development agreement, to an MX2 AIO DA zone, which is a mixed use general within the airport influence overlay and a development agreement. A development agreement modification is also included with this application. As seen here, the site is located approximately 1,500 feet east of the intersection of Overland Road and 5 Mile Road. To the north are a variety of residential uses comprised of detached single-family houses, townhouses, and multifamily developments. Adjacent to the west along Overland Road are commercial uses comprised of office, retail, restaurants. In addition, the subject property is located within the Overland Road and 5 Mile Road Community Activity Center. The existing commercial uses along Overland Road in the R2 zone were allowed as part of a plan unit development approved in 2008. The slide shows the overall subject property that is part of the DA, and that the area shaded in red is the area that will be rezoned to MX2. In summary, the applicant proposes to rezone 2.5 acres located on the west side of Gold King Way along Overland Road from R2 to MX2. In addition, the applicant requests to modify the development agreement for the larger 4.2 acre area, which includes the commercial properties on both sides of Gold King Way abutting the Overland Road. The DA modification includes changes to the Exhibit B of the development agreement to allow for new types of signage and updating the DA to reflect the change in zone. The proposed rezone to MX2 along Overland Road is consistent with the existing commercial uses on site and the comprehensive plan policies. In particular, the subject property is identified as a mixed use on the land use map, which supports MX2 along this arterial roadway. The DA modification is simple in that it includes updating the DA to reflect the change in zone to an MX2, and the DA, and to change the Exhibit B of the development agreement to allow for different types of signage. The applicant's intent with the rezone and the DA modification is to submit an alternative sign program in the future, which is an administrative application, which will allow for more cohesive signage throughout this existing commercial plaza on the west side of Gold King. The planning team did talk to a member of the public, Betty Bermasolo, late this afternoon, who expressed concerns with the proposed rezone in terms of the types of signage that could be allowed within the MX2. In particular, concerns were to allow for that the MX2 zoning could allow for electronic message displays. This is the signage that really the applicant is striving for. It's the freestanding or center sign that the alternative sign program would allow. As you can see, this sign has no, this is a standard freestanding sign and there is no electronic message display on it. And the applicant is not proposing any. In conclusion, the Planning and Zoning Commission finds the rezone of the development modification to comply with the required findings and recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Then Mary, I have a question. I don't think I can remember a rezone since I've been on council that was mostly dedicated towards different signage. Has the applicant mentioned like a desire to redevelop in the future as well? Or I'm trying to figure out like the trouble to go through all this to change the signage that's on the street.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, the subject property is already developed as a commercial plaza. And really the applicant is trying to change the zone from the existing R2, which was the commercial uses were allowed in that zone, that residential zone, back in 2008 as part of a use exception in the PUD. Unfortunately, the alternative sign program or that sign plan that allows for the larger and more cohesive packages of signs isn't allowed in the R2. So they have to change it to the MX to do the alternative sign program, which would allow them the center sign, which is much larger than a standard freestanding sign since it's meant for the entire plaza. So to get the signage that they want, they have to change to MX2. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense. It also seems like a lot of work for an applicant and for something of this scale to come for city council to approve a sign. But like, if that's the only way mechanism for them to continue to move forward, then certainly. But yeah, this seems like something that I would have been very comfortable with a staff decision on.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Okay, thanks. We'll now hear from the applicant. Will you let them know if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
All right, yes, we just want to be able to do the signage to match the buildings that are already existing.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Mayor, I just want to say thank you for going through the process for such an onerous process to get the signage in front of your building. So appreciate you jumping in there and working through the city process.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll open it up for the public. Anybody online? Okay, Betty, come on up.
I'm going to put it right here. Good evening. My name is Betty Berman Solo. I live at 1970 Cannon Arrow Way, and I'm with the Southwest Ada County Alliance. Been with the Alliance since its inception, so that's back in 91. We've always been concerned about the development along Overland Road and hoping that we can go forward with gateway status. With concerns about it remaining a safe, attractive corridor. I only found out about the fact that the MX2 would allow for the message display, which we're hoping that with going forward, the rest of the property will continue to have the same type of signage that is that is already built on the east side of Union Square. The west side is coming forward with an attractive sign that I went to the neighborhood meeting and it was attractive. And the only problem arose tonight when I took a picture of the announcement for the project tonight, and I had questions about whether the additional signage might have the message, the electronic message that is allowed with the MX too. So I talked to staff about it and sounded like, and I talked to Marissa as well, and we felt that it was important for us to stress our concern for continuing to work towards having a less less distraction, which we found that these electronic signs can be. And that's why I'm here, is really to convey that message, that we continue to look at the signage and what's going to develop outside the pad thai house, and have everything similar to kind of match the square that's already has signage on the east side. So I hope that's, if you look up there, you can see where it's divided. It is our activity center for the Southwest right now that we want to protect that. So in terms of looking at billboards, I know that you have to take one off to replace another one, but there could be a lot of transition that takes place in that remaining area in terms of signage, and we're just hoping that that you keep it in mind. And we'll go forward as much as we can to protect Overland, and it definitely is our gateway. So we're hoping for that status. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for
Yeah,
Betty?
Madam Mayor. Betty, thanks so much for coming out and speaking tonight. So I just want to make sure I fully understand. So the concern is with the MX2 zone and the signage, having electronic signs that could potentially be distracting and not fitting in with the area. Is that correct, Betty?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Councilman Corliss, and the concern is we do have an electronic sign that's in front of Walgreens there. And I've had people come to me and say, I hope we're not going to have any more of that up and down Overland, because it's so much a residential area. And the Walgreens sign is surrounded by commercial. But in this case, we have the concerns of having an attractive setting for the residential that's to the rear of this MX area. So I think that's something that we have to keep in mind.
Just a follow-up question, Madam Mayor. So the sign that they're proposing here today, is there any concerns from the neighborhood association on what's being proposed from the applicant?
Madam Mayor, Councilman Corliss, I have heard nothing. I was very happy with its design fitting in with the look of the buildings that are there. And I am just concerned at this point that there's an awful lot of undeveloped area that it still exists there and would be classified as the MX zone. So I'm concerned that we keep that in mind, that it does affect this different signage, different types of signage, is kind of a red flag to me that there might be something there that we don't have a chance to even interface with the council, or it'll be a staff decision. We may not know anything more about it except see it go up. Those things have happened. So I appreciate you knowing our concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And it was good to see you.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify on this? Further questions for staff? I'll close the hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of CR 24-14, a rezone and modification of a development agreement for approximately 2.54 acres located at 10100 West Overland Road from R2 A1-1/DA residential compact with airport influence area overlay and development agreement to MX2 / A1 -O / DA mixed use general with airport influence area overlay and development agreement.
Second.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I just want to make a comment. I really appreciate the neighborhood association coming out and talking about the concerns with not this sign, but potentially what could be in the future. And this is a wonderful area. It's a great development along Overland. They have some really neat architecture on the building, lots of different types of commercial businesses in there. And I think this additional signage will help people find the businesses that they're looking for in the area. And I'm happy to support this tonight.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to add too that I think part of preserving the activity center that is valued there is allowing those businesses the tools that they need to be successful. And I see this as a part of that, and it's appropriate for the area and supported by the comp plan. So I'll be supporting the motion for this too.
Madam Mayor, lots of comments on this motion for what seems like a pretty simple sign. I do agree with Betty that some of those moving signs, those electronic signs that have a lot of movement can be distracting. I don't love seeing them all over town because I think it's dangerous for pedestrians and people riding bikes and fender benders as well. So I think that's something that's important for us to keep in mind, you know, as we have busy roads and lots of pedestrian bicycle activity. I also would love for this applicant to just have made a process of getting a different sign maybe a little bit easier. And so this might be something for us just to look at and say, like, do we need to go through an actual rezone process if somebody needs some different signage in front? And again, there's lots of things for us to work on, but this is probably something that we should just put a small pin in saying, let's take a look at this, see if we can make that process easier for this person.
Well, thanks, everybody. I was looking at the streetscape during this and reminded me how much I like that Thai restaurant right there. You do have a great activity center right there. And now I'd really like to go get some good Thai food. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Willett. Yes. Corliss.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Stead.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Madam Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.